And on season 2, definitely unexpected was the way you shed light on the LGBTQ community, you know? So I was thinking, what was the thought process behind shedding light about LGBTQs and homosexuals? Was it that the Muslim community is not educated enough about this, or is it that do we not speak about it? Tell us, what were you thinking when you putting that together?
There's a lot of people who our community's principles of like mercy and compassion and open dialogue are completely just shut down when it comes to these conversations and when it comes to people who fall into these buckets of people and how they identify and it seems so against our principles to not have open, honest conversations about this, because what ends up happening is like, you hear about it all the time of like people who are Muslim and they're gay and they feel so alone that they, people commit suicide, people do things that are really, it's just like really tragic. It's like they leave their communities completely, they leave everything they know, they leave their families, and because there's no dialogue, because there's no, again, no mercy, no understanding. And so it feels so odd and sad that we can't have these conversations. And so as a show, it just felt really important to be on the forefront of just being like, we're going to talk about this, just like with anything else. It's like, how are we not going to talk about this? How are we not going to see humanity here? Really, like, you can't see humanity here. Like that's like, it's the conversations around these people who need to be engaged. Like, we need to talk, and we don't, and it gets dark, right? It gets it's like inhumane, and it's really to not be in discussion is again, and it just feels like it goes against who I when I look at the potential of what we can be doing. I feel like it goes against that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, as we were kind of breaking down the episodes and looking at them, we had to ask ourselves, when you create the show and you're compiling the controversial topics that you speak on, do you do it by what the current climate is, or do you do it based off of what you feel aids to the script and to the storyline?
It's what goes into the story. It's what the characters organically are heading towards, because season 1, we have one character who's a Black Muslim, right? But who plays my sister Dina's friend. Mm-hmm. But we really don't get an in-depth look until we meet Mahershala and Zainab. Mm-hmm. And we meet Mahershala and Zainab because Ramy's story takes him to meet Mahershala and Zainab. Gotcha. And we meet some of these other characters because that's where Mesa's story takes us, and that's where Nassim's story takes us, and that's where so it has to be something we want to talk about, but also has to be something that's like on the road that we're taking these characters, because if we're just swerving out of the way to talk about things, it's like, it's going to feel chaotic and we're never going to cover everything, right? So there's all these things we still haven't covered in 2 seasons. And it just makes me excited to do more, because I'm like, well, they're down the road, that's what's coming, and so it has to feel right though.
Yeah. And that's cool, because, we're looking at, we're saying, I can't wait for season 3, because, we all can, like, as fans, we get these ideas like, okay, I think he'll probably talk about that, like, oh, they'll show this, like, this we're gonna have like this character, and so on and so forth. So it makes it fun that you're leaving us breadcrumbs, and then every now and then you leave us like a nice full slice of bread. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, that's satisfied, that I'm good, alhamdulillah, but what's next? And you give us breadcrumbs, like, oh, maybe it'll be this type of piece of bread. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I like how you've done that, and is very good. Like I can't overstate, man. Like it's very well done. Like leading us into these things. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, man. No, I'm so glad that you connect with it, and in a lot of ways, like I know what my show is, I know what my show isn't, right? And so it's not going to connect every dot, it's not going to hit on everything, but for it to connect with you guys, that's what's exciting to me, right? Because it's like I feel connected to you guys. We probably have a lot of similar experiences and issues and things and so that's just what makes me excited, where it's like someone else might be like, well, this isn't me, and I'm like, okay, but like I'm pretty sure if I talk to some Muslim dudes who are kind of in my bracket, who are kind of in that space, I'm like, that's what I care about, on a level, because I think there are conversations that we need to be having as men that we're not having, that are really important to have. And so even this conversation we were having earlier about like using marriage to like not deal with certain things, that's us putting a burden on women, and so we need to be talking to each other about those things. That's why I love the guy friends in the show, because they're interrogating each other. They're not putting it on, this isn't on like a woman to come in and fix us, because again, that puts a burden on women. It's like, we need to be talking to each other, and we need to be really honest with each other. And, in order for people to be able to like heal, and kind of get through a bunch of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm not even saying the show does all that, but it at least starts those conversations, right? It gets us in a place where we can just, laugh a little bit, talk about it. That's what's exciting me.
And that's such a great point, because once the conversations are had with each other, then more conversations can come from that. And I love how you just breaking barriers and breaking chains, because even with Mahershala Ali coming in as an imam and a black imam, but not only that, at a Sufi center, so it was just one by one, wasn't expecting that. And then I can see that on the other end when your father, and I've been through this myself, was upset because you listened to this man that's telling you and you want to change your life around. So I think you hit a few different things on there, because you talked about something that is not spoke about a lot is in the Muslim community, is just the racism and prejudice. And when you have a black imam, the different negative connotations that are put on him, such as he doesn't know what he's talking about, he's not qualified, he just converted a few years ago, went into prison. So I think that was really good. Do you believe that those conversations are being had now in regards to racism? And was that like your goal, or what were you trying to show when you had a black imam on there?
The history of Islam in America is, Black Muslims have the longest historical connection to this country. They predate Arab presence, but people only think about Arabs when it comes to being Muslim. That's, even me growing up, that's what I thought. And so to have a black imam in a show about a Muslim in America, it just felt like the most American choice on a level. It felt like this is so real. But then it's also about looking at the anti-Blackness within Muslim communities, various, right? Because I think there's this idea about racism. I've said this before, this idea about racism that it's just like white people versus people of color, right? But if you look at under that people of color umbrella, there's a ton of anti-Blackness. Like what white people are the best at racism, like they do it like like that's like NBA level, like LeBron level, like whoa, they're good. But all the other groups are kind of like they're like high school JV, EuroLeague status, like they're trying to play, man. They're trying to go pro. You listen to some of these Arab dudes talking about black people, and you're like, are you trying to go pro? Like you just like see it, you're like, man, this dude's trying to get some of that white, supremacy. But talking about those things is really important, because if you look at race as a binary thing, and you put it all on white communities, you don't get a chance to heal. We don't get a chance to be unified, at least on our end of it. And again, not to conflate, right? Like the white communities have had all the power, so it's definitely a different thing, but it has to be addressed, you know. And I mean, this is something that we're talking about a lot right now. Obviously, a lot of these conversations are coming forward. You know, we thought to put them in the show when we were writing the show last year, but you know, now we find ourselves in June 2020, and it's the biggest conversation on earth, you know. And as it should be, it's crazy that it hasn't been. So I'm, you know, happy that we at least have a small slice of that this season, and hopefully we hit on it more.
Salam everybody, thank y'all for watching the video. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. If y'all want to see more content just like this, make sure that you subscribe. Also like, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you guys. And more videos.
More videos.
More videos.
Like,
right here on the bottom. More videos. All right.